They handed me a black body bag and called it suicide. But when I unzipped it and saw my son's face, bruised purple, eyes swollen shut, fingers bent backwards like broken twigs, I knew the truth. The police chief standing behind me whispered, "Accidents happen in custody. I'm Delta Force. I've seen torture in war zones. And I just saw it on my own boy's corpse." Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. My name is Victor Kane, and 48 hours ago, I had a son. His name was Tristan, 22 years old. Smart kid. Worked at an auto shop, had a girlfriend named Ivy, loved hiking on weekends. He wasn't perfect. What kid is? But he was mine. And now he's gone. The call came at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was at my place outside Fort Bragg, half asleep, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Mr. Kane," a flat, official voice. "This is Sergeant Felix Roth with the Harlow County Sheriff's Department. I'm calling about your son, Tristan Kane." My heart dropped into my stomach. What happened? Is he hurt? A pause. Too long. "Sir, I'm sorry to inform you that Tristan passed away earlier this evening while in our custody." The words didn't make sense. I sat up, gripping the phone so hard I thought it might crack. "What do you mean, in custody? What the hell was he arrested for?" "Possession with intent to distribute. We found drugs in his vehicle during a routine traffic stop. He became combative during booking, and combative?" "Tristan." I was on my feet now, pacing. "My son doesn't do drugs. And he sure as hell wouldn't fight cops." "Sir, I understand this is difficult, but where is he? I want to see him. Now." Another pause. "He's been transferred to the county morgue. You can view the body tomorrow morning. I'll be there in 2 hours." I hung up before he could say another word. I didn't sleep, didn't eat. Just threw on clothes, grabbed my keys, and drove 4 hours through the night to Harlow County, a small, nowhere town in the North Carolina mountains where Tristan had moved 6 months ago to be closer to Ivy. The morgue was a sad, squat building attached to the hospital. Cold fluorescent lights, smell of bleach, and something else. Something wrong. A woman in scrubs led me down a hallway into a sterile room with a single metal table. A black body bag lay on top. "Take your time," she said softly, then left. I stood there, staring at that bag, my hands shaking. I've been to war. I've seen death up close, friends, enemies, civilians caught in the crossfire. But this was my son. I unzipped the bag, and my world shattered. Tristan's face was unrecognizable. Both eyes swollen shut, deep purple bruises across his cheeks and jaw. His lips were split, dried blood crusted around his nose. But it was his hands that destroyed me. 3 fingers on his right hand bent at impossible angles, clearly broken. His knuckles were shredded, like he'd been beating on something. Or someone had been beating him. This wasn't a kid who became combative. This was torture. I don't know how long I stood there. Could have been minutes. Could have been an hour. Eventually, the woman came back. "Mr. Kane, I'm so sorry for your loss. If you need more time, who did this?" My voice came out low, shaking. "Who the hell did this to my son?" She looked uncomfortable. "The report says self-inflicted injuries. He was found hanging in his cell." Bullshit. I turned to face her, and she flinched. "Look at him. Look at his hands. His face. You think he did that to himself?" I just process the bodies, sir. I don't write the reports." "Then who does?" "The medical examiner. Dr. Paige Winters. But she works closely with the sheriff's department. The report's already filed as suicide." "Suicide?" I looked back at Tristan's broken body and felt something cold settle in my chest. Something dangerous. "I want copies of everything. Autopsy report, photos, toxicology. Everything." She hesitated. "That requires a formal request through the sheriff's office. Then I'll go there next." The Harlow County Sheriff's Station was a 15-minute drive from the morgue. Brick building, American flag out front, patrol cars lined up like soldiers. It looked clean, professional, normal. But I'd been in enough enemy compounds to know The worst monsters were the nicest uniforms. Inside, the air smelled like burnt coffee and paperwork. A deputy sat at the front desk, young guy, barely 25. His name tag read Grant. "Help you?" he asked, not looking up from his computer. "I'm Victor Kane. My son died in your custody 2 nights ago. I want to speak with whoever's in charge." That got his attention. He looked up, eyes flicking over me. 6'2", 200 pounds of muscle and scars, Delta Force written all over my posture. "Oh yeah? Let me get the chief." He disappeared into the back. I waited, hands in my pockets, scanning the room. 3 other deputies milling around. Cameras in the corners. Everything recorded. Everything controlled. A door opened, and a man stepped out. Tall. Mid-50s. Silver hair slicked back, sharp jaw, cold gray eyes. He wore his uniform like armor. Every button perfect, every crease sharp. His name tag read, Chief Dominic Hale. He walked up to me with his hand extended, a practiced smile on his face. "Mr. Kane, I'm Chief Hale. I'm deeply sorry for your loss." I didn't shake his hand. His smile faltered, but he recovered quickly, lowering his hand. "I understand you have questions. Why don't we talk in my office?" His office was small, neat, decorated with commendations and photos. Hale shaking hands with the mayor, Hale at a charity event, Hale receiving some award. Everything screamed, "I'm a pillar of this community." He sat behind his desk and gestured for me to sit. I stayed standing. "Mr. Kane, I want you to know we did everything we could for your son. Did you?" I cut him off. "Because I just saw his body. And it doesn't look like you did a damn thing except beat him to death." Hale's face hardened. "That's a serious accusation. And those are serious injuries. Broken fingers, swollen face, bruises all over his body. You're telling me he did that to himself? Your son resisted arrest. He fought my deputies during booking. We had to restrain him." "Restrain? You tortured him." Hale leaned back in his chair, his expression icing over. "Mr. Kane, I understand you're grieving. But the facts are clear. Your son was found hanging in his cell. The medical examiner ruled it suicide. Toxicology showed methamphetamine in his system. My son didn't use meth. With all due respect, you didn't live with him. You don't know what he was into." My fists clenched. Every instinct in my body screamed to reach across that desk and snap his neck. But I held still. "I want the surveillance footage. From booking. From his cell. All of it." Hill smiled. A cold, dead smile. "The cameras in that wing malfunctioned that night. Technical issue. We're looking into it." "How convenient." "Mr. Kane." Hill stood, buttoning his jacket. "I know this is hard, but your son made bad choices. He paid the price. I suggest you take his body, bury him, and move on." "Move on." I stared at him, at this man in his perfect uniform with his perfect smile, and I saw it. The lie, the cover-up, the arrogance of someone who thought he was untouchable. "I'm not moving on," I said quietly. "Not until I know exactly what happened to my son." Hill's smile disappeared. "Then I'm afraid you're wasting your time. The case is closed." He opened the door, a clear dismissal. I walked out, but as I passed him, I leaned in close and whispered, "I'm Delta Force Chief. I don't close cases. I finish them." His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. I walked out of that station knowing 2 things. 1, they killed my son. 2, I was going to make every single one of them pay. I spent the next 3 days trying to find the truth, and every door I knocked on slammed in my face. The medical examiner, Dr. Paige Winters, refused to meet with me. Her assistant said she was unavailable, and the autopsy report was final and confidential. When I showed up at her office anyway, security escorted me out. The county prosecutor, a man named Quentin Marsh, told me over the phone that the case had no merit for further investigation and suggested I seek grief counseling. Even the local newspaper wouldn't touch it. The editor, a nervous woman named Morgan, said, "We don't report on closed cases, Mr. Kane." I'm sorry. Everyone was scared. Or bought. Or both. But I didn't come this far to give up. On the fourth morning, I went back to Tristan's apartment. A small one-bedroom place above a laundromat, the kind of spot a kid rents when he's just starting out. The landlord had given me the key, said I could clear out his stuff whenever I was ready. I wasn't ready. I'd never be ready. But I went anyway. The apartment still smelled like him. Cheap cologne, coffee, that weird pine air freshener he always used. His jacket was draped over a chair, dishes in the sink, a half-finished book on the nightstand. Like he'd just stepped out and would be back any minute. I sat on his couch and put my head in my hands, and for the first time since I saw his body, I let myself break. Just for a minute. Just enough to feel the weight of it, the anger, the grief, the unbearable absence of my son. Then I got back to work. I went through everything. Closet, drawers, under the bed, looking for anything that might explain why they targeted him. But there was nothing. No drugs, no weapons, no evidence of the person Chief Hale described. Just a normal kid trying to live his life. I was about to leave when I heard a soft knock at the door. I opened it, and a young woman stood there. Early 20s, blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, eyes red and swollen like she'd been crying for days. "Are you Victor?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yeah. Who are you?" "Ivy. I was Tristan's girlfriend." My chest tightened. I'd seen her picture on his phone, but meeting her in person made it real in a way I wasn't prepared for. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder like someone might be watching, then slipped inside. I closed the door. Ivy stood in the middle of the living room, arms wrapped around herself, trembling. She looked terrified. "You okay?" I asked. She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "No, I'm not okay. None of this is okay." I guided her to the couch, and she sat down, wiping her face with her sleeve. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have come sooner, but I was scared. They told me not to talk to anyone. They said if I did." "Who said that?" "The cops. After Tristan died, 2 deputies came to my work. They said if I told anyone what I saw that night, they'd arrest me too. Said they'd charge me as an accomplice." My blood went cold. "What did you see?" Ivy looked up at me, her face pale, haunted. "They arrested Tristan right outside my apartment. It was around midnight. I was inside, and I heard yelling, so I looked out the window. There were 3 patrol cars, 6 deputies. They had him on the ground, cuffed, and he wasn't fighting. He was just lying there. But they kept hitting him anyway, kicking him. One of them, tall guy with a shaved head, he stomped on Tristan's hand. I heard the bones crack from my window. I closed my eyes, rage boiling in my veins. "Did you record it?" I tried, but my phone died. I plugged it in, and by the time it turned back on, they were gone. I drove to the station, but they wouldn't let me see him. They said he was being processed, and I should go home. "But you didn't." She shook her head. "I stayed in the parking lot. For hours. Around 3 a.m., I heard screaming, coming from inside the building. It was Tristan. I know it was. I'd know his voice anywhere." Her hands were shaking so badly, she could barely hold them still. I ran to the door, but it was locked. I banged on the glass, yelling for someone to help him, and then this cop came out. Older guy, silver hair, Chief Hale. "Yeah." He told me Tristan was fine, just having a mental episode, and if I didn't leave, he'd arrest me for trespassing. I was so scared. I left, and the next morning, they called and said he was dead. She broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. I should have stayed. I should have called someone. "It's my fault." "No." I put a hand on her shoulder. "It's not your fault. It's theirs." She looked up at me, tears streaming. "What are we going to do? They're cops. No one's going to believe us." "I believe you," I said quietly, "and I'm going to make them pay. But I need your help." Ivy told me everything she knew. Tristan had been working at an auto shop called Riley's Garage. The owner, a guy named Blake Riley, was a good man, paid fair, treated his employees right. But about 2 months ago, Chief Hale started coming around, pressuring Blake to let him use the shop after hours. For what? I asked. Tristan didn't know exactly, but he said Hale and his deputies would bring in cars late at night and work on them in the back. Blake didn't want to do it, but Hale threatened to shut him down. Health violations, zoning issues, whatever he could make up. So Blake agreed. And Tristan saw something. Ivy nodded. A few weeks ago, Tristan stayed late to finish a brake job. He heard voices in the back and went to check. He saw them pulling bricks of something out of a car's engine compartment. Drugs, he thought. Maybe cocaine or meth. He took a picture on his phone and got out of there before they saw him. Where's the phone now? The cops took it. When they arrested him, they said it was evidence. Of course they did. Did he tell anyone else? Blake? You. Just me. He was scared. He didn't know what to do. He wanted to go to the state police, but I told him to wait, to think it through. And then, her voice cracked. They arrested him. Said they found drugs in his car during a traffic stop, but Tristan never used drugs. Never. They planted it. I know they did. I believed her. Every word. Ivy, I need you to write down everything you just told me. Names, dates, times. Everything. She nodded. Okay, but what are you going to do? I'm going to take down Chief Hale and everyone who helped him kill my son. After Ivy left, I drove to Riley's garage. It was closed, permanently. A hand-painted sign in the window read, "Out of business. Thank you for your support." I knocked anyway. A minute later, a man opened the door, mid-40s, grease-stained hands, tired eyes. Blake Riley. We're closed, he said flatly. I'm Victor Kane, Tristan's father. His expression shifted, guilt, sorrow, fear all mixing together. I heard what happened. I'm sorry. Can I come in? He hesitated, then stepped aside. The shop was empty. Tools gone. Lift stripped. Just concrete and shadows. Why'd you close? I asked. Blake let out a bitter laugh. Hale shut me down. Day after Tristan died, inspectors showed up. Said I violated a dozen codes I'd never even heard of. Fined me 50 grand. I couldn't pay it, so they seized everything. Because you wouldn't keep quiet. He looked at me, eyes hollow. I told the state police what I saw. The drugs, the late-night visits, all of it. 2 days later, my shop was gone. Message received. You still willing to talk? To who? No one's gonna listen. Hale owns this town. The mayor, the prosecutor, half the judges. Anyone who crosses him ends up broke, arrested, or dead. I'm not from this town, I said. And I don't scare easy. Blake studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. What do you need? By the end of the week, I had a list. Blake gave me names, business owners Hale extorted, people he threatened, families whose kids disappeared into his station and came out broken or not at all. I visited 12 people. 9 refused to talk. 2 cried and begged me to leave them alone. 1, an older woman named Daphne, told me her son was beaten so badly by Hale's deputies that he still couldn't walk right. I wanted to press charges, she said, voice shaking. But my lawyer said it was suicide. No case would stick. Hale's untouchable. Untouchable. I'd heard that word a lot in my career, usually right before someone got touched. That night, I sat in my motel room with a notebook full of names, dates, and crimes. A pattern emerging. Chief Dominic Hale wasn't just dirty. He was running Harlow County like a cartel, planting drugs, extorting businesses, torturing anyone who got in his way. And my son had gotten in his way. I stared at Tristan's photo on my phone, him smiling at a campfire, arm around Ivy, looking happy and alive and whole. I'm coming for them, I whispered. All of them. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Kane. A man's voice. Nervous. Young. Who is this? A pause. Then, my name is Evan. I'm a deputy at the station, and I need to talk to you. About the night your son died. My heart stopped. I'm listening. Not over the phone. Meet me tomorrow. Midnight. The old quarry off Route 9. Come alone. Why should I trust you? Because I was there. His voice broke. I saw what they did, and I can't live with it anymore. The line went dead. I sat there, staring at the phone, my mind racing. This could be a trap, or it could be the break I needed. Either way, I was going. The old quarry was 30 minutes outside town, down a dirt road that hadn't seen maintenance in years. I arrived at 11:45 p.m., headlights off, engine quiet. The place was abandoned, just rocks, black water, and darkness. I parked behind a cluster of trees and waited. At exactly midnight, another vehicle appeared, a beat-up Honda sedan. It pulled up slowly, cautiously, and stopped 50 feet away. A man got out. Young, maybe late 20s, wearing jeans and a hoodie, not his uniform. He looked around nervously, then walked toward me. I stepped out of my truck. He froze. "Victor Kane," he called out. "That's me." He came closer, and under the moonlight, I could see his face. Pale, haunted, eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't slept in days. "I'm Evan," he said. "Evan Kane." My stomach dropped. "Kane." He nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm your brother." I stared at him, the world tilting sideways. "What?" "Your younger brother." "Half-brother, technically. Same dad, different moms. You left for the military when I was 7. I don't expect you to remember me." I did remember. Vaguely. A kid at one of Dad's remarriages. I'd been 17, angry, eager to get out. I enlisted and never looked back. "You're a cop," I said slowly. "At Hale Station." "Yeah." He looked down at his feet, shame radiating off him. "I became a deputy 3 years ago. Thought I was doing the right thing. Thought I was helping people. And now I know I'm working for a monster." Silence hung between us, heavy and suffocating. "You said you were there. The night Tristan died." Evan's face crumpled. "I was. And I'll never forgive myself." He told me everything. Tristan had been brought in around midnight, already beaten from the arrest. Hale personally took him into the interrogation room, the one in the back, no cameras, soundproofed walls. Hale called it the box. He wanted Tristan to confess to being a drug dealer. Evan said, his voice shaking. But Tristan kept saying he didn't do anything, that the drugs were planted. Hale didn't like that. What did he do? Evan closed his eyes. He started hitting him. Not open-handed, fists. Hard. Tristan tried to protect himself, but he was cuffed to the table. Hale just kept going. Then he called in Felix and Oliver, 2 of his senior deputies. They took turns. My hands clenched into fists. "And you watched." Hale made me. Evan's voice broke. He said it was a loyalty test, that if I wanted to stay on the force, I had to prove I could handle the hard stuff. I told him to stop, but he laughed. Said Tristan was a dealer and deserved it. I just stood there. I didn't stop them. You let them kill my son. I know. Tears streamed down his face. I know. And I hate myself for it. But Hale threatened me. Said if I talked, he'd kill my wife and daughter. He's done it before. There was a deputy 2 years ago who tried to blow the whistle. His whole family died in a house fire. Hale made it look like an accident. I wanted to hit him. Wanted to scream. But I forced myself to stay calm. Why are you telling me this now? Because I can't live with it anymore. Because Tristan didn't deserve what happened to him. And because Hale's not going to stop. There are others. People locked up right now on fake charges, getting beaten, tortured. If someone doesn't stop him, it'll never end. You're a cop. Go to Internal Affairs. The FBI. I tried. He pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot of an email sent to the State Police Internal Investigations Unit. The response was one line. Case reviewed. No evidence of misconduct. Matter closed. Hale has connections everywhere, Evans said bitterly. State police, county prosecutors, judges. He's been doing this for 10 years, and no one's touched him. I stared at my half-brother, this broken man standing in front of me, and I made a decision. You want to make this right? He looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. Yes. Then you're going to help me take him down. From the inside. How? You were a wire. Get him on tape admitting what he did. Get the others too. I need evidence that'll hold up in federal court. Evan hesitated. If he finds out, then you better be convincing. He swallowed hard, then nodded. Okay, I'll do it. I didn't trust him. Not fully, but I needed him. We agreed to meet again in 3 days. That gave Evan time to get his hands on a recording device and me time to figure out the next move. As he drove away, I stood there in the dark, feeling the weight of it all, my son's death, my brother's betrayal, the enormity of what I was up against. But I wasn't alone anymore. The next morning, I went to see a lawyer. Her name was Clara Winters, and according to Blake Riley, she was one of the only lawyers in town who'd ever stood up to Hale. She'd defended a man accused of assault, a man Hale's deputies had beaten and then charged with resisting arrest. Clara fought the case hard, got it thrown out. 2 weeks later, her husband died in a car accident. I found her office in a small strip mall on the edge of town. The sign outside read, Winters Legal Services. I walked in. The receptionist was gone, no one at the desk. But I heard movement in the back, so I knocked on the open door. A woman looked up from her desk. Mid-40s, dark hair pulled into a bun, sharp eyes that assessed me in half a second. We're not taking new clients, she said flatly. I'm not looking for representation. I'm looking for information. Then you're in the wrong place. I stepped inside anyway and closed the door. My name is Victor Kane. My son was killed in police custody a week ago. Chief Hale ruled it a suicide, but I know it was murder. Her expression didn't change. I'm sorry for your loss, but I can't help you. Blake Riley said you could. Blake doesn't know what he's talking about. He said you fought Hale once, and won. Clara's jaw tightened. I fought him. I didn't win. No one wins against Dominic Hale. Your husband tried. That hit her. Her face went pale, and for a moment, I thought she might throw me out. Instead, she stood, walked to the door, and locked it. Then she turned to face me, her voice low and dangerous. My husband was a good man, an honest lawyer. He spent 2 years building a case against Hale, corruption, extortion, evidence tampering. He had witnesses, documents, recordings. And then one night, his brakes failed on a mountain road. He went off a cliff and burned alive. Her voice cracked, but she didn't cry. The state police ruled it an accident, mechanical failure. But I know the truth. Hale killed him, just like he killed your son. Then help me stop him. I can't. She shook her head. I have a daughter. She's 12. If I go after Hale again, she's next. I won't risk that. So you're just going to let him keep killing people? I'm going to keep my daughter alive. Her voice rose, anger and grief pouring out. You don't understand what he's capable of. He doesn't just destroy you. He destroys everyone you love. Your family, your friends, your future. And no one will help you because they're all too scared. I met her eyes. I'm not scared. Clara stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, she walked to a filing cabinet, unlocked the bottom drawer, and pulled out a small black flash drive. This was my husband's, she said quietly. Everything he gathered on Hale. Audio recordings, financial records, witness statements. I kept it hidden after he died. I told myself I'd use it someday, but I never had the courage. She held it out to me. I took it. There's a recording on there, she whispered. From 3 years ago, my husband planted a bug in the interrogation room. You'll hear Hale laughing while someone screams in the background. I listened to it once. Never again. My chest tightened. Who was screaming? I don't know. The case was buried. The person was never seen again. She walked to the door and unlocked it. Take it. Do what I couldn't. But be careful. Hale doesn't lose. He destroys. I nodded. Thank you. As I reached the door, she spoke again. Mr. Kane, when you bring him down, make sure he knows it was for all of us. I sat in my truck in the parking lot, the flash drive burning a hole in my pocket. I plugged it into my laptop. There were dozens of files, spreadsheets, PDFs, photos. But the one labeled interrogation_audio_2022 caught my eye. I clicked it. At first, there was just static. Then voices. Tell me where the shipment is. Hale's voice. Calm. Cold. I don't know what you're talking about. A man's voice. Terrified. A sound, flesh hitting flesh. Wrong answer. Another hit. Then another. The man started screaming. And underneath it, barely audible, Hale was laughing. I listened to the whole thing. 7 minutes of torture. When it ended, there was silence. Then Hale's voice again. Clean this up. No one talks. I closed the laptop, my hands shaking with rage. This wasn't just murder. It was systematic. Calculated. Evil. And I was going to end it. I needed backup. Not local cops. Not state police. I needed people I could trust with my life. People who'd been to hell and back with me. I needed my team. 3 phone calls later, they were on their way. Logan Pierce, sniper, tactician, the guy who never missed. Mason Cross, explosives expert and the best combat medic I'd ever seen. Ryder Blackwood, intelligence officer, hacker, the one who could find dirt on anyone. We'd served together in Delta Force for 8 years. Iraq, Afghanistan, places that didn't have names on maps. We'd bled together, saved each other, buried friends together. If anyone could help me take down a dirty police chief, it was them. They arrived 2 days later at a cabin I'd rented 20 miles outside Harlow County. Deep woods, no neighbors, off the grid. Logan showed up first. Tall, lean, eyes that saw everything. He walked in, dropped his gear, and pulled me into a hard hug. I'm sorry about Tristan, brother. Thanks for coming. You call, we come. Always. Mason arrived an hour later, built like a tank, carrying enough equipment to run a small field hospital. Ryder rolled in last, laptop bag slung over his shoulder, already tapping away on his phone. We sat around the table, and I laid it all out. Tristan's death, Hale's operation, the evidence Clara gave me, Evan's offer to wear a wire. When I finished, Logan leaned back and crossed his arms. So we're going after a corrupt police chief who runs a town like a warlord. No official support. No legal authority. Just us. Pretty much. Mason grinned. Sounds like Tuesday. Ryder was already typing. Give me 24 hours. I'll map out Hale's entire operation. Financials, property, communications, the works. Good. We start surveillance tomorrow night. The next evening, we set up across the street from the Harlow County Sheriff's Station. Ryder had hacked into the town's traffic cameras and disabled the ones around our position. We were ghosts. Logan sat in the back of the van with his scope, watching every movement. Mason monitored police radio chatter. Ryder ran facial recognition on everyone entering and exiting the building. And I watched, waiting. Around 9 p.m., Chief Hale walked out, climbed into his personal vehicle, a black SUV with tinted windows, and drove off. Logan, you got him? On it. We followed at a distance, 3 cars back, lights off whenever possible. Hale drove through town, then turned onto a service road leading to an industrial park on the outskirts. He pulled up to a warehouse. No signs, no markings, just a plain metal building with a single light above the door. 3 patrol cars were already parked outside. Hale got out and walked inside. Ryder, run that address. Ryder's fingers flew across his keyboard. Property records show it's owned by a shell company. Registered in Delaware. No real names attached. What's it supposed to be? Officially? Storage facility. But there's no business license, no rental agreements. It's a front. Logan adjusted his scope. Movement inside. I count 6 people. Hale and 5 others. Can you get visuals? Windows are blacked out. But there's a ventilation grate on the roof. Mason, you up for a climb? Mason grabbed his gear. Always. 10 minutes later, Mason was on the roof, positioning a fiber optic camera through the ventilation shaft. The feed came through on Ryder's laptop. What we saw made my blood boil. The warehouse was set up like a distribution center. Tables lined with plastic-wrapped bricks, cocaine, meth, pills. Scales, cash counters, duffel bags stuffed with money. Deputies in uniform were sorting product like factory workers. Hale stood in the center, arms crossed, supervising. This isn't small time, Ryder muttered. We're talking millions. Record everything, I said. Ryder nodded. his software capturing every frame. We watched for an hour. Hale and his crew loaded drugs into patrol cars, hidden in spare tire compartments, under seats, inside equipment bags. They were using official vehicles to move product. Smart, Logan said grimly. Who's going to search a cop car? At 11 p.m., they finished. Hale gave some final instructions, then everyone cleared out. We followed one of the patrol cars, driven by Deputy Felix Roth, the same one Ivy mentioned. He drove to a truck stop 30 miles away, met with a man in a semi-truck, and transferred the drugs. Ryder snapped photos of the license plate, the driver's face, everything. Got him, he said. That truck's registered to a known cartel courier. FBI's been watching him for 2 years. Send everything to my laptop. We're building a case. Over the next 3 nights, we documented everything. Hale's operation was massive, moving drugs through the county, laundering money through local businesses, paying off officials. He'd built an empire, and the badge was just his cover. But we still needed the smoking gun, proof that he'd killed Tristan. That's where Evan came in. We met Evan at the cabin on the 4th night. He looked worse than before, thinner, pale, haunted. You ready? I asked. He nodded. I got the wire. Ryder helped me set it up. It's sewn into my vest. Hale won't find it. Ryder handed him a small earpiece. We'll be listening in real time. If things go south, we pull you out. What do you need me to get? Evan asked. Hale admitting he killed Tristan. And anyone else involved. Get them talking. Make them feel safe. Evan swallowed hard. How? Tell them you're worried. That Victor Kane's been asking questions. That maybe they should tie up loose ends. Get them paranoid. People confess when they're scared. And if Hale suspects, then you run. We'll be close. The next day, Evan went to work. We parked 2 blocks away, listening through the wire. Static crackled, then Evan's voice came through. Chief, you got a minute? Hale's voice, irritated. What is it, Evan? It's about Tristan Kane. His father's been around town, talking to people. Blake Riley, Ivy, even Clara Winters. A pause. So, what if he doesn't let it go? What if he digs deeper? Hale laughed. Cold. Amused. Victor Kane's a nobody. A washed-up soldier playing detective. He's got no evidence, no witnesses, no case. Let him dig. He'll find nothing. But what if, Evan? Hale's voice turned sharp. You're acting nervous. What? I'm not. I just think, you think too much. The kid's dead. Case closed. If his father keeps sniffing around, we'll handle it the same way we handled the others. Understand? Silence. I said understand. Yeah, I understand. Good. Now get back to work. Footsteps. A door closing. I looked at Ryder. Did we get that? Every word. But it wasn't enough. Hale hadn't directly admitted to killing Tristan. We needed more. 2 days later, Evan tried again. This time with Deputy Oliver Grant, one of the men who'd been in the interrogation room that night. They were in the locker room, alone. Man, I can't stop thinking about that night, Evan said, voice low. With the Kane kid. Oliver grunted. What about it? I mean, we went pretty hard on him. You think anyone's going to come asking? No one's asking anything. The me ruled it's suicide. It's done. But his dad's a problem Hale's watching. If he becomes a bigger problem, Hale will solve it. Like he solved the kid. Evan pressed. You ever feel bad about it? Oliver laughed. Bad? The kid was dealing. He got what he deserved. But he kept saying he didn't do it. They all say that. Oliver slammed his locker shut. Look, Evan, this job isn't for the soft. Hale runs this town because he does what needs to be done. You want to keep your job, keep your mouth shut, and stop asking stupid questions. He walked out. Evan stood there, breathing hard. You okay? I asked through the earpiece. Yeah, I'm good. That night, back at the cabin, we reviewed the recordings. It's still not enough, Logan said. Hale's too careful. He lets his guys do the talking. We need him on tape, Ryder agreed. Directly. Mason leaned forward. What if we force his hand? Make him think someone's talking. How? Anonymous tip. to the FBI about the drug operation. Make Hale paranoid. When people panic, they make mistakes. I thought about it. Risky, but it might work. Do it. Ryder sent an encrypted email to the FBI field office in Charlotte. Detailed information about the warehouse, the drug shipments, Hale's operation. No names, no sources, just facts. 2 days later, the feds came to town, and Hale lost his mind. We listened through Evan's wire as Hale gathered his inner circle, Felix, Oliver, and Deputy Grant. Someone talked. Hale snarled. The FBI's asking questions. They want to audit our evidence locker. If they find what's really in there, we're all going to prison. Who could have talked? Felix asked. I don't know. But when I find out, they're dead. Just like the Kane kid. There it was. Ryder hit record. Hale kept going. We cleaned up that mess perfectly. Made it look like suicide. No witnesses. No evidence. If we can do it once, we can do it again. What about Victor Kane? Oliver asked. If he keeps pushing, we'll put him in the ground next to his son. My hands clenched into fists. We had him. We had everything we needed. Audio recordings of Hale confessing to murder. Video evidence of the drug operation. Financial records showing money laundering. Witness statements. It was airtight, but something was eating at me. I sat in the cabin that night, listening to the recordings again, and one detail kept nagging at my brain. Evan had said he was in the room when they killed Tristan. That Hale made him watch as a loyalty test. But in all the recordings we'd captured, no one mentioned Evan being there. Not Hale. Not Felix. Not Oliver. Why? I pulled up the audio file from Clara's flash drive, the interrogation recording from 3 years ago. I listened again, this time focusing not on the screams, but on the background. Voices. Multiple people in the room. I isolated the audio, ran it through Ryder's software to enhance it. 3 distinct voices. Hale, Felix, and someone younger. Nervous. Should I hold him down? Hale's response. Just watch. You need to learn how we handle problems here. My stomach dropped. I pulled up the timestamp. 3 years ago. Right around when Evans said he joined the force. Ryder, I called out. I need you to pull Evans' employment records. When exactly did he start working for Hale? Ryder typed. October 2022. 3 years and 1 month ago. The same time as that recording. I felt cold. Sick. Pull his service record. Every case he worked. Every arrest. Everything. Ryder worked for 20 minutes, his face growing darker with each passing second. Finally, he turned the laptop toward me. Evan's been involved in 12 excessive force complaints. All dismissed. He's been present at 4 suspicious deaths in custody. All ruled accidental or suicide. Logan came over, reading the screen. He's not just a witness. He's part of it. No. I shook my head. He said Hale forced him. Threatened his family. Does he even have a family? Mason asked quietly. Ryder pulled up more records. No marriage certificate. No kids. The wife and daughter he mentioned? They don't exist. The room spun. Evan had lied. About everything. I grabbed my keys. Where are you going? Logan asked. To get the truth. Victor, wait. But I was already out the door. I drove to Evan's apartment on the south side of town. 2nd floor, lights on. His car was in the parking lot. I didn't knock. I kicked the door open. Evan jumped up from his couch, eyes wide. Victor, what the hell? I grabbed him by the shirt, slammed him against the wall. You lied to me. What? No, you don't have a wife. You don't have a daughter. There's no family, Hale threatened. His face went pale. Why? My voice came out raw, broken. Why did you lie? He didn't answer. I shoved him harder. You said you were there. That you watched them kill my son. Tell me the truth. Now. Evan's face crumpled, and suddenly he looked like a scared kid, not a cop. I didn't just watch, he whispered. Everything stopped. What? Tears ran down his face. I held him down. The words hit me like bullets. Hale told me to. He said if I didn't, I'd be next. So I grabbed Tristan's shoulders while his voice broke. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I let go of him, stumbling backward. My brother, my blood, had helped torture my son to death. Why? I could barely get the word out. Because I was scared. Evan shouted, tears streaming. You don't know what it's like working for Hale. He owns you. If you don't do what he says, you disappear. I've seen it. Good cops who try to stand up to him, they're gone. Dead or run out of town. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. Not for me. I'm not like you, Victor. I'm not some decorated soldier who's seen combat and knows how to fight evil. I'm just nobody. A weak, scared nobody who wanted to keep his job and stay alive. So you helped murder a 22-year-old kid. He collapsed to his knees, sobbing. I know what I did. I can't sleep. I can't eat. Every time I close my eyes, I see his face. I hear him begging. And I hate myself. I deserve to die. I stood there, staring down at this pathetic man, my brother, and felt nothing but disgust. You're going to help me finish this, I said coldly. You're going to testify. You're going to tell everything you know. And then you're going to prison where you belong. Evan looked up, hope flickering. If I testify, will you forgive me? No. The hope died. But Tristan might have, I added quietly. He was better than both of us. I walked out of that apartment, got in my truck, and drove until I couldn't see straight anymore. I pulled over on the side of the road and finally let it out. The rage, the grief, the unbearable betrayal of knowing my own brother had blood on his hands. My son's blood. I screamed until my throat was raw, punched the steering wheel until my knuckles split. And then I sat there in the dark, breathing hard, and made a decision. Evan would testify. Hill would go down, and everyone involved would pay. But Evan, he wasn't getting mercy. He was getting justice. When I got back to the cabin, the team was waiting. You good? Logan asked carefully. No, but I will be. I told them everything. What Evan confessed. What he'd done. Mason swore under his breath. Ryder looked sick. Logan just stared at me, jaw tight. What do you want to do? Logan asked. We use him. Get his full confession on record. Then we hand him over to the feds with everyone else. And if he runs? He won't. He's too broken to run. The next morning, Evan came to the cabin. He looked like a ghost. Empty, hollowed out. Ryder set up a camera. Sit, I said. Evan sat. Tell them everything. From the beginning. Every person you hurt. Every crime you witnessed. Every order Hale gave you. All of it. For 3 hours, Evan talked. He confessed to holding Tristan down while Hale beat him. He named the other deputies involved. Felix, Oliver, Grant. He detailed how they staged the suicide, planting the rope, destroying evidence, falsifying the report. He admitted to participating in other beatings, cover-ups, evidence planting. By the end, we had a full confession, legally recorded, time-stamped, undeniable. What happens now? Evan asked quietly. Now we take down Hale. And you go to prison. He nodded slowly. I deserve worse. Yeah, I said. You do. That night, I sat outside under the stars, Tristan's photo in my hand. I'm getting close, son, I whispered. Real close. And when I'm done, everyone who hurt you will pay. I promise. The wind rustled through the trees, and for just a second, I swore I felt something. A presence, a warmth. Like Tristan was there, listening. I closed my eyes and let the grief wash over me one more time. Then I stood up, pocketed the photo, and walked back inside. There was still work to do. The next day, I contacted the FBI agent Clara had mentioned, a man named Adrian Cole, based out of the Charlotte field office. I sent him everything. The recordings, the videos, Evan's confession, the financial records, the surveillance footage. Hundreds of files. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Mr. Kane? This is Special Agent Adrian Cole. We need to meet. Now. We met at a diner 2 hours away, neutral ground. Agent Cole was in his late 40s, gray at the temples, sharp eyes that missed nothing. He slid into the booth across from me, a thick folder in his hands. I've been investigating Dominic Hale for 3 years, he said without preamble. I knew he was dirty, but I could never get close enough to prove it. Every witness disappeared. Every lead went cold. And now you've handed me everything I need to bury him. He tapped the folder. This is federal racketeering, drug trafficking, murder, conspiracy. We're talking life sentences. Multiple life sentences. When do you move? 72 hours. I need to coordinate with DEA, ATF, and U.S. Marshals. We're going to hit that station hard. Arrest everyone involved. Seize all evidence. Freeze all assets. I want to be there. Cole studied me. You're not law enforcement. I'm the father of one of his victims. I've earned the right. He considered that, then nodded. You can observe. From a distance. But you do not engage. Understood. Understood. 3 days later, everything was in place. The FBI assembled a task force. 20 agents, full tactical gear, warrants for Hale and 15 of his deputies. At 4 a.m., they moved, and I was right there with them. The sky was still dark when the FBI convoy rolled into Harlow County. Blue and red strobes flashed on silent patrol cars as the task force fanned out, rifles raised, voices calm and professional. It was surgical. No warning, no room for the dirty cops to hide. I sat in an unmarked SUV with Agent Cole, radio squawking updates every minute. Entry teams in position. Stack on the door. Copy. No movement at west side windows. Breach in 3, 2, 1. A muffled crash, then shouting, FBI? On the ground. Hands where we can see them. Over the radio, I heard panic. Deputies cursing, doors slamming, someone screaming for a lawyer. One deputy tried to run. Logan tackled him before he made it off the back steps. Within minutes, the station was secured. Cuffed deputies sat on the floor, wide-eyed and furious. But Chief Hale wasn't there. He'd gone to ground. The FBI tracked his phone, dead. Traced his car, abandoned behind an abandoned strip mall. Mason and Ryder scoured the surveillance feeds, piecing together grainy images of Hale slipping out a back exit, changing jackets, vanishing into an alley. Hale always said he had a plan if the wolves ever came for him, Evan told me. He was sitting next to me in the parking lot, hands cuffed. This was protocol. He's got contacts. Safe houses. Agent Cole came over. He's hiding, but not for long. We've got every road out of town blocked. Air support's up. Eventually, he'll surface. I stared at Evan. He looked small in the dawn light, handcuffed, head hung low. You ran this game with him. How far will he go to escape? Evan swallowed. All the way. If he goes down, he'll take as many with him as he can. You going to help us finish it? He looked at me, broken but honest for once. I'll give you everything. By noon, Hale's entire command structure was in custody. Felix, Oliver, Grant, all charged with racketeering and murder. My team turned over every file, every recording. Cole called a press conference. CNN vans rolled up. Cameras flashed. This is the end of systemic corruption in Harlow County, he said. We will rebuild. We will heal. For the first time in years, people in that town looked hopeful. But Hale was still out there. Late that afternoon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Kane. A deep, familiar voice, heavy with venom. Congratulations. You got most of my team. But you forgot one thing. What's that? You never learned to leave things alone. Where are you, Hale? His laugh was low, chilling. Closer than you think. The line went dead. I ran outside just in time to see a nondescript sedan blow through the barricade, straight toward the courthouse. Inside, Hale, disheveled, desperate, gun in hand. Aimed for the one man who could bury him, Evan. Evan froze. Hale stormed the steps, muzzle flashing, screaming his betrayal, his hatred. And before the FBI could pull their triggers, I tackled Evan to the ground. Gunfire erupted. Agents surrounded the car. Hale tried to run, but Logan was faster, tackling him hard, disarming him in seconds. Sirens wailed. Agents moved in, cuffed Hale, read him his rights. For the first time, Chief Dominic Hale looked small, powerless. I hauled my brother to his feet, blood pounding in my ears. It's over, I told him, as much a promise as a hope. As the dust settled, Adrian Cole came over, eyes filled with relief. Hale's in custody. Nobody killed. You did it, Victor. No, I said, letting myself breathe for the first time in days. We did it. All of us. Evan nodded, tears in his eyes, finally ready to face everything he'd run from. And in that moment, for the first time since Tristan died, I felt the possibility of peace. The courthouse steps had barely cleared when we started planning our next move. Hill's arrest was only the beginning. The real battle was inside that station, unstable, dangerous, full of secrets. Agent Cole pulled me aside. We need a way to keep him locked up tight. But if Hale has friends in the judiciary, I nodded. There are judges and prosecutors on his payroll. We need airtight federal charges, no loopholes. We decided to use Evan's cooperation as our ace. His testimony alone could topple the entire corrupt network. But first, he had to survive. Evan was placed in a special protective custody program. He needed to testify quietly, shielded from every possible threat. Meanwhile, Ryder and Mason worked nonstop hacking into Hale's hidden accounts. They uncovered fake businesses, offshore transfers, and secret payments to powerful officials, including the county's own judge, Quentin Marsh. The revelation hit hard. Not just the police, but the judicial system was compromised. Judge Marsh had built his career on law and order and flaunted his tough-on-crime stance. But behind closed doors, he was Hale's silent partner. Marsh's office was elegant, with rich oak desks and framed certificates, a stark contrast to the corrupt dealings it hid. Agent Cole arranged meetings with state prosecutors to present overwhelming evidence of Marsh's involvement in covering up murders, falsifying documents, and obstructing justice. The prosecutors hesitated. Marsh was influential, but with federal pressure mounting, they finally agreed to press charges. The day before Marsh was formally indicted, I confronted him outside the courthouse. His face was stone cold, eyes steely. Your web is collapsing, Judge. It's over. He smiled thinly, no fear in his eyes. Justice? Justice is a game, Mr. Kane. And sometimes, the winner bends the rules. I stepped closer. Not anymore. Before he could respond, cameras clicked. The press had captured every word. It was a turning point. The town's shadows were fading. Back at the station, Evan wore the wire again. The tension inside the walls was palpable. One night, Hale's dirty deputies called a meeting. Hale himself appeared, smiling but tense. Evan recorded everything. Hale bragged about using the judicial system to crush enemies, his plan to dismantle the FBI's case, and his hope to escape with a bribe or two. This city is mine, Hale declared, voice dripping with confidence. No one takes me down. Except we had his every word. Agent Cole and Ryder compiled the final evidence. We prepared for the biggest raid in Harlow County's history. Every corrupt official named, every crime documented, every plea ready. The day was coming when the entire rotten system would be exposed, and justice would finally be served. The day the federal task force officially took over the case, Harlow County felt like it was holding its breath. News vans lined the streets, local residents whispered in hushed tones, and the sheriff's station, once a fortress for corrupt deputies, was now under siege, not just by law enforcement, but by the truth. Agent Adrian Cole was our steady anchor through the chaos. He coordinated teams from the ATF, DEA, and Marshals Service, all working together to dismantle the violent empire Hale had built. We gathered early that morning for a briefing in an unmarked federal building outside town. Maps sprawled across tables, phone lines buzzing, and satellite feeds streaming live. Every detail was planned down to the second. This wasn't a raid, it was a war. We hit the station and every affiliated property simultaneously, Agent Cole said, voice calm but firm. No one leaves. We seize all evidence. We protect all witnesses, including Evan. This is the last chance for everyone to do the right thing. Staring at the faces around the room, I saw the weight of what lay ahead. This was no clean operation. Hale's network ran deep with weapons, loyal deputies, and backup allies ready to fight bloodily if cornered. Even outside the courthouse, tension simmered. Judge Quentin Marsh was under house arrest, his office stripped bare. He refused to cooperate, but knew his time was up. During our covert surveillance, we intercepted a frantic phone call between him and an unknown contact. Plans to escape, bribes promised to federal agents, threats leveled against witnesses. Marsh wasn't going quietly. Meanwhile, inside Hale's once impregnable station, Evan felt the walls closing in. His wire captured moments of panic disguised as bravado. "They think they can break me," Hale barked, pacing like a caged lion. "Let them try. I've buried worse rats than Cain's traitorous brother." The audio crackled as Felix and Oliver murmured dark jokes about revenge. "We'll tear the whole town apart before those feds get us," Oliver sneered. As dawn approached, the plan unfolded. SWAT teams surrounded the station, armored vehicles blocking all exits. The federal squad burst through doors with overwhelming force, shouting commands, securing rooms, and detaining deputies before they could react. Chaos erupted. Felix scrambled to a back exit. Logan and Mason cut him off instantly. Hale, in an office upstairs, tried to storm out with a handgun, but Ryder anticipated the move and blocked his path. One final showdown. Hale sneered. "You think this ends with cuffs? I own more than you know." Logan responded, gun steady. "You only own a jail cell now." That deadly standoff ended with Hale on the floor, handcuffed. The nightmare that had ruled Harlow County for years was over. In the following days, federal prosecutors filed charges: racketeering, drug trafficking, murder, witness tampering, and more. Hale and 15 deputies faced life sentences without parole. Evan's testimony was pivotal, his betrayal now a path to redemption. Judge Marsh might have tried to escape justice, but thanks to Cole's team, even he was indicted. Proof no one was beyond the law. The townspeople, once silenced by fear, started to come forward. Victims, witnesses, families broken by the system. Slowly, the truth unraveled. Some sobbed in relief. Others stared bitterly at the ruins of their broken town. But the healing had begun. One evening, I stood outside the courthouse where Hale had once ruled. Evan was beside me, free but bearing the weight of his sins. "You did good, Cain," Evan said quietly. I looked up at the stars, Tristan's memory burning bright in my heart. "This isn't over. Not yet. But we're getting closer." And somewhere deep inside, I felt it, a flicker of peace, real and earned, knowing the monsters were no longer untouchable. The morning broke cold and gray, a silence over Harlow County that felt heavier than any storm. Inside that silence, the federal task force prepared for what would become the most aggressive takedown this town had ever seen. It wasn't just Hale and his deputies anymore. The Judge Quentin Marsh was about to fall, too, unraveling the twisted web of corruption with all its dark secrets. We started before dawn, with squads moving into every known hideout and property linked to Hale's empire. Every street corner, every abandoned warehouse, every shadowy office was swept clean by the FBI, DEA, and ATF operatives. Logan and Mason took lead on securing the warehouse, where the drug operation was still humming in secret. Ryder hacked into the building's security to unlock doors remotely, allowing agents to pour inside without warning. But the station itself was the heart of the beast, and that's where the fiercest battle erupted. Through the wire, I heard Evan's voice, strained but steady. "Chief, we're here. Everyone's on edge." Hale's sharp voice answered, "Keep calm. We survived this." That calm was a thin veneer. The urgency in the officers' movements betrayed them. The agents stormed in like a tidal wave. Felix made a break for the back exit with a handgun in hand, but Logan tackled him hard, slamming him face first onto the pavement. Felix's scream echoed briefly before we cuffed him down. In the chaos, Evan disappeared inside the building. Minutes later, over radio, the news came in. Hale is attempting to escape from upstairs. Arm. I held my breath. Mason whispered, I'm going up. Logan followed. They reached the stairwell just as Hale burst through the door, gun drawn, eyes wild. Stay back. Hale screamed. I'm not going to rot in your cages. Logan aimed his pistol. Drop the weapon, Hale. You'll never take me alive. A shot rang out. Logan dove to the side, bullet grazing his shoulder. Mason lunged, forcing Hale down with raw strength. The gun skittered across the floor. The room was thick with tension, breaths heavy. Mason yelled, Cuff him. Seconds later, Hale was on the ground, wrists bound, defeated. His reign of terror was over, but what came next shook us all. As agents secured the building, I got word that Marsh had arrived under heavy guard at the federal courthouse, in cuffs. I raced there. Marsh looked calm but tired. His smug confidence was gone. Judge Marsh, I said, stepping forward, your days of deciding who lives or dies are done. Signed indictments and warrants detailed his partnership with Hale, bribery, case rigging, obstruction, covering up murders. Marsh leaned in, voice low and venomous. You think taking me down means justice? Justice is a myth, Kane. Power decides fate, and power never dies. His words chilled me. Hale's network was collapsing, but the roots were deep. The trial began weeks later. Evan was the star witness, his testimony so raw it silenced the courtroom. He described the murder of Tristan in excruciating detail, the torture in the box, the cover-up, the lies. Felix, Oliver, and other deputies broke under cross-examination. Marsh's defense attorney tried every legal trick, but the evidence was overwhelming. Then, in a stunning twist, the prosecution revealed a recording we hadn't expected, a hidden camera phone video Evan had secretly taken months before, showing an influential local politician accepting cash from Hale. The courtroom gasped. More names were added to the list, names powerful enough to shake the state government. Outside the courthouse, protesters gathered, demanding justice. Survivors and families of victims shared their stories for the first time. The town was rising, haunted but hopeful. The day the verdict was announced, Hale was sentenced to life without parole. No possibility of release. Marsh received a similar sentence. The deputies faced decades behind bars. Evan was sentenced to 15 years for his crimes. His cooperation spared him the harshest penalties. At the end of the day, standing in the courtroom with tears in my eyes, I felt a bitter victory. Tristan was gone, but the monsters who killed him had been stopped. The scars of betrayal ran deep in my family, but for the first time, the path to healing had been paved with justice. The trial was grueling, stretching over months like a storm that refused to break. Every day brought new revelations, courtroom drama, and raw emotions that gripped the nation's attention. The small town of Harlow County became a symbol, a battleground between corruption and justice, betrayal and redemption. Evan stood at the center of it all, his every word cutting through the courtroom like glass. He described the brutal truth of what happened to Tristan, the beatings, the fear, the silence. Each confession chipped away at the lies Hale and his network had spun for years. Despite his complicity, Evan showed genuine remorse, his voice faltering as he admitted his failures and begged forgiveness. The prosecution laid out overwhelming evidence. Audio recordings of Hale's orders. Video surveillance showing drug shipments moving through official patrol vehicles. Financial documents tracing illicit money flows to the highest offices. Marsh's hidden hand in the corruption was undeniable. His cold smile disappeared, replaced by the stark reality of his crumbling empire. The defense tried to paint Hale and Marsh as victims of overreach. They questioned Evan's motives, attacked his character, called witnesses who tried to deflect blame. But the jury saw through it all. The town, once silenced by fear, erupted in support of the victims, and those brave enough to stand against the darkness. Each day, families affected by Hale's terror filled the courtroom gallery. Their tears, their testimonies, their quiet dignity added a powerful human weight to the case. The judge, stern and impartial, ensured the trial ran with precision. No corrupt whisper could sway the court. Finally, the verdict day arrived. The courtroom was packed. Media cameras trained for the moment that would decide the fate of Harlow County's darkest chapter. The jury filed in, faces grim and resolute. The foreman stood. "We find the defendants guilty on all charges." A roar of relief swept across the room. Tears streamed from eyes long dry. Justice, so long deferred, was finally served. Hale was sentenced to life in prison without parole. No chance of early release. The nightmare that haunted so many forever locked away. Marsh received the same sentence, a powerful message that no official, no matter their rank, was above the law. His facade shattered. He was led away in handcuffs, his influence extinguished. Deputies involved in the scheme faced long prison terms, their badges revoked, their names forever stained. Evan accepted his sentence, 15 years. His cooperation had saved countless lives and torn down the corrupt system. He left the courtroom a broken but hopeful man, carrying the weight of his mistakes with the hope of redemption. Outside, a crowd had gathered. I stood with Ivy, Mason, Logan, and Ryder, my Delta Force family who had stood by me since day one. The air was heavy but light with a new beginning. Ivy reached out, took my hand. "We did it," she whispered. "No," I said quietly, looking out over the crowd. "He did it. Tristan did." His memory was the fire that burned away the darkness. In the following months, Harlow County began to heal. New leadership replaced the fallen corrupt officials. Reforms were enacted: oversight, transparency, accountability. Families torn apart by past atrocities began to rebuild. I started a foundation in Tristan's name, a beacon for families fighting police corruption and seeking justice. It was my legacy, my son's legacy, to protect others from the nightmare we survived. I still carry the scars, the grief, the betrayal, the rage. But I also carry hope, because sometimes, even in the darkest places, justice finds a way. And those who believe in it fight until it wins. 6 months later, I stood at Tristan's grave, early morning mist swirling around the freshly turned earth. Ivy was beside me, holding my hand steady as the world felt unbearably heavy and achingly quiet. The town had begun to breathe again, but the wounds ran deep, scarring every corner of our lives. The courtroom verdict was etched in history, but no sentence could bring Tristan back. No apology could fill the silence left by his absence. I looked down at the simple gravestone, etched with his name and dates. A life stolen, but not forgotten. In those 6 months, Harlow County had changed. New police leadership pledged transparency. Community programs began undoing decades of damage. Families who'd once lived in fear now dared to hope. I started the Kane Foundation, a place to fight corruption, protect families, and honor victims like Tristan. Because his death demanded justice, but his life demanded so much more. Sitting with Ivy in our small office, I realized healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about carrying the past with strength and using it to build a better future. No revenge fantasy, no violent justice. Real change comes from resilience, dignity, and hope. So here's a question for you. If you were in my shoes, how would you honor the memory of someone you loved who was taken too soon? What drives you to fight, to heal, to find light in the darkest moments? I want to hear where you're watching from, your city, your country, because every story has a home. Every voice deserves to be heard. Drop a comment below and tell me. If you've stayed with me till now, thank you. Thank you for allowing this story into your day, for trusting me to tell Tristan's story, the pain, the betrayal, and the hope that finally shines through. If you want more stories that grip your heart, that shock and heal, and bring epic tales of revenge and justice, Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell, because the next thrilling, gut-wrenching story is just around the corner. And one last thing, how do you want to hear these stories? Do you want tales of quiet revenge, fierce justice, emotional family dramas, or something else that keeps your heart racing and your mind turning? Let me know in the comments. I'm here to bring the stories you want, crafted for you with care, passion, and respect. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and remember, every story told is a step toward healing. Thank you for being part of this journey. Story is finished.